experience, not just myself, but from my many associates that in a minute I'd like to give a shout out to, is that these four characteristics seem to be, prominent, or not to go into psychodynamics, are personality traits of the predatorial internet troll. And it's amazing. If anything, the way I describe it, Kevin, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic what this new breed of internet troll does.
I agree. And I can tell that you've got a heart. So you're not just being a professional. It seems to me like sometimes you get kind of pissed off at these people. And I can sympathize with you, man. Sometimes it is hard to keep your cool when you're watching somebody always in attack mode. And especially when they're going after people who haven't done anything. And it's sickening to me. And there's a part of me that, I can just sense this hope that something happens to them that would make people believe in karma. I guess that's the lightest weight I can give to that statement without getting more specific. But these people suck, and they're out to make your day worse. It makes them feel good. What kind of human beings do you guys know that would go out and seek to make someone's day worse to make themselves feel better? That's really what this comes down to.
Exactly. And I should be calling you doctor, because you just analyzed and hit the nail on the head. What's amazing, and this is another facet, which is not really the psychodynamics, but if we look at the classic troll, the original, let's say the proverbial Don Rickles, the original internet troll were typically solo artists. They went in, they heckled, they provoked, they teased, but they pretty much did it on their own. Well, here we are in 2015, and that's changed. Not to say they don't exist, but now we have trolls, and that's why I want to give my shout outs, because they're helping. We now have internet trolls that travel in groups. And not only do they travel in groups, but they practice, these predatorial trolls, almost like a one-upsmanship, to where the more vitriolic, the more vile, and the more subjugative they are, the more proud they feel. So now what they do in these groups is they go tell their other fellow troll peers that they haven't even met offline. But this is one of the dynamics. So you have, and one of the other constructs that anybody can go read, it's free to download, is that if you Google troll triad, it's just Google troll triad in quotes, and that is my construct that I presented, because I was trolled big time by these three people. And that is the construct which begins, and it's not exhausted. Well, you can tell me if it's exhausted for those who, but this is a year ago where I was targeted by three people that engaged in some of the most nefarious, malevolent stuff that, at least to me, was incredible. Real quickly, before I give my shout-outs, one of the trolls actually sent New York State Education Department, this is laughable, it's not laughable because actually it pisses me off, but I've dealt with it, but one of the trolls sent to New York State Education Department, Office of Professional Discipline, get this, Kevin, is that I was engaging in attempted homicide by internet. They actually sent the New York State Education Department, and this is what Troll Triad talks about. They actually sent, what they sent was a 160-page file, which 2 pages of it they were the authors of, and then the 158 pages were all my website and 2 blogs.
Oh my gosh!
Needless to say, not only was the case closed as per the New York State Education Department, because they had to investigate it, the Office of Professional Discipline, but when I spoke with them, they actually, if I may say, laughed. That these people would actually go to that length to, in an urgent way, say that my license as Dr. Nutritelli as a psychiatrist needs to be immediately revoked because I'm engaging in attempted homicide via internet. How you do that, I don't know. Well, that's what they were accusing.
if that's if that's a crime, I know I got a list of about 600 people I want to turn into the authorities. But yeah, that's not a crime. It's not a possibility. However, now we're talking about causing harm over the internet. Could someone drive someone to suicide or homicide over the internet through repeated and unprovoked attacks or some sort of programming of a weaker or younger mind, maybe?
Well, of course they could. I mean, that is one of the downsides. And what we're just starting to see is a slow but sure, it's just beginning, where, it typically is called cyberbullycide. Okay. And cyberbullying, at least here in the United States and still in most industrialized nations, cyberbullying is considered a pediatric issue where minors, bully one another via information communication technology. Cyberbullycide is the act of the target child taking their own life because they're being cyberbullied. Mm-hmm. Well, now what we're just starting to see is that internet trolls who target children and minors and even some adults, they're starting to be able to show that take their own lives. And that is because the internet troll is absolutely relentless in targeting people, and they're nonstop. And that is what makes them, not all of them, but really makes them a sick group of individuals. And I hate to use the term sick because some of them, and as we'll talk about, are psychopathic. They're not sick. They don't have a mental illness. They're not substance abusers. They're psychopaths. Not all, but some of them.
Okay, I wanted to ask you. Let's take the psychopath, for example. The psychopath internet troll. This is a kind of a combo thing here, and this person now has a very wide, broad, and free avenue of attack. What did they do before the information age? Who could we identify with back in, say, pre-1990 that was this person waiting for the internet tool to come?
Well, that is what we don't, when I say we, is those of us that are constantly research because, see, the thing is, you and I, Kevin, I'm 50 years old. I grew up, and I say this all the time, I grew up pre-information age. So when I was a child, the only technology we had to communicate to people were walkie-talkies and CBs. Yep. Some had ham radios. So when I was a child and I was bullied, I had the shit beat out of me by kids physically. But the good thing is that after the bullying occurred, whether it be on the ball field or whether at school, I got to go home. And I'd be able to, proverbially lick my wounds and get away. But today with the information age for children as it relates to cyberbullying, it's 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter if it's the weekends, doesn't matter if they go home, doesn't matter if it's the summers, holidays. Today's children are being targeted. That's cyberbullying. But now we have this new growth of the predatory troll. And the predatory troll is different than cyberbullying because cyberbullying, it's usually the cyberbully, the offender, knows personally the target, goes to the same school as the child, maybe lives in the same town or community. Internet trolls, they can be on the other side of Mother Earth and be targeting you or a child or an adult, and that's what they're doing.
Absolutely. And I guess being so far away would give them a certain sense of safety that they wouldn't normally have, wouldn't it?
It gives them a sense of, how do I say this, couillons, and this is and the term I use, Kevin, is pathetic, because internet trolls, and we're seeing this more and more, is what they have distance, But now they also have their fellow trollites that are proverbially high-fiving them in cyberspace, whether it be in Facebook, Google+, Instagram, and they're all coaching one another and saying, good job. Mm-hmm. But it's all based, what they're doing is they're congratulating each other, Kevin, for debasing, defaming, and humiliating other people that they don't know, that they've never personally met.
And what they don't also know is what they're probably doing is ushering in a new broad imposition of laws. Wouldn't you say? Isn't that where this is going to lead to?
Well,
The government getting into your life even more now?
most thank you, Kevin, and the people that are listening. These are the ones I want to give shout out. Is you again, Doctor? You are correct. The biggest problem, and even for the internet trolls that are listening, because they will, once I post it everywhere that it's archived, is that we've dealt with Snowden. Thank God he exposed and brought the NSA, and not that I'm against the NSA. But what I truly don't want to see as we go further is my right to privacy and my right to be left alone. But what's happening is the more dark side of cyberspace that's going on, the growth of internet trolls, the growth of cyberbullying, online sexual predation, essentially what it does is it gives the federal government and federal governments, plural, a reason to publicly, through legislation, to be involved in our day-to-day lives. Now, obviously, I know, as per NSA, that, they're obviously monitoring, and in some ways they have to for cyber terrorism.
Right.
But what's going to happen if we don't do something, that's all going to change. Now, do you think internet trolls give a shit about that? No, they don't.
No.
They will give a shit is once it happens. And that is when net neutrality and my privacy is gone. Because now, publicly, legislators, federal governments can say, well, you, the private citizen, the community, you cannot self-police and monitor yourself. Hence, we need to get involved.
Right.
And once that begins, you might as well turn off the internet.
Yep.
And this is one of the biggest concerns I have with trolls, because they are now, it's just amazing what they're doing to other people.
I wish I knew. I try to look in my spirit and say, who has pissed you off enough in the past where you would go be a troll? And the person that's pissed me off the most is my ex-wife. And still, she couldn't convince me that I should go out and fuck with somebody's life and turn it upside down for no reason other than, as you said, to high-five somebody in my group and say, look what I just caused him to do. Look what I just did to his reputation. What kind of person does that? And what can we do? I know you've done all the research into the types of personalities and behaviors that lead to troll groups forming, but what can we do to stop it if we want to stop short of getting the government involved?
The first thing is, and not to blow smoke up your ass, is what you're doing right now, Kevin, is talking about it and educating listeners, whether there's 3 people right now or 3 million and through the archives, is starting to understand that internet trolls exist. It's still, there's the old statement, which to me applies to the classic troll, which is don't feed the trolls, which is still true in some aspects. But now with the predatorial troll, you can't just avoid, because that actually entices them to go harder and further and more severe. Right. Because today's trolls are not just focusing and teasing and heckling and provoking Kevin. They're now going after Kevin, your wife, your job, your career, your history, your everything. Short of going after your family pets, they are looking to take down everything.
I've had people threaten my family pet, so yeah.
So that is the first thing, is to create awareness. But for instance, and if I could, real quickly, may I give out my quick shout outs, because all these individuals, well, the first is, and this falls in, what do we do in creating awareness? I'd like to say quickly 2 small businesses, Impact Fit Sports. They're a new company. They're out of Florida, and they are a sport tech company that works with student athletes from 10 to 18 years old. And Impact Fit Sports, as I said, with Florida, what the plan is doing, and I'm honored that I'm going to be working with them, where with these children 10 to 18, as well as the parents of these student athletes, is to teach them not only digital citizenship, how to conduct oneself in cyberspace.